Thank you to the Hubble Space Telescope Institute for the use of a couple of photographs in parts 1 and 2. This is part 2 of the Alpha Chthonic cell and its effort to take over the Alaska State Legislature and hold it for ransom in an undisclosed location. The Alpha Chthonic cell secured the entry and ordered the bridge crew to make ready to sail. Within a half hour, the Alpha Chthonic cell ran away on the largest cruise ship visiting Alaska that April. The U.S. Coast Guard allowed the ship to pass after a few passengers were shot and tossed over the bow of the Coast Guard patrol vessel with the word that more would follow if the ship were hindered from its aggression to Icy Strait and the Pacific Ocean beyond. The Alpha Chthonic cell had planned its cruise ship journey very well. It had adequate personnel for security and a number of hostages for a depletion allowance. It immediately began negotiations with the U.S. government for the release and ransom of the Alaska State Legislature. The President of the United States asked the Secretary of State, "Well, what are these guys worth? Well, they're mostly Republicans, aren't they?" "Mr. President, Alpha Chthonic hasn't yet made a specific ransom demand. They are a majority of Republicans, though. I believe that we must pay as much as many pesos if the Chinese allow their currency to float." "Yeah, I quite agree. Many mundo pesos. Is the Delta Force available?" "And how, Mr. President? They can swim like extraterrestrial fish and sink that cruise ship with just one special sabot shot." "That's the SEALs, isn't it, Tiffany?" "Yes, I believe so. They are in Afghanistan right now, and with mid-air refueling, we'll halo drop on that boat like a ton of bricks within hours." "Have we cleared out with the Felix cartel? Don't they want our SEAL team to guide illegal migrant workers through the Arizona route to corporate farms?" "Mr. President, Guillermo can just wait a few hours to smuggle that new voter through. We haven't got their smart chip fake ID cards from Thailand anyway." A contemporary thriller requires plotting for terrorist cadre, enabling their escape to act in sequels, perhaps with an interregnum time in high mountain hideout or in cavern of unknown location such as GRU, the Alpha Chthonic cell. Involuntary stem cell harvesting of second and third world children, allegedly perpetrated by agents for the industrially wealthy, was alleged stimulating contributions to terrorist jihad against the Western moral ethos of exploitative ignominy, debatably contested by various advocates of the media, pro and con. The only moral certainty was oil, and the fact that 80% of the U.S. economy was in the service, financial, and government area of non-material production. Verbal advantage became synonymous with moral advantage and the right to borrow and spend foreign tax dollars, while oil was the elixir of global power. The Alpha Chthonic cell knew that as the world economy recovered, oil prices would rise, shifting more of the economy back to the sponsors of jihad against the West through the Muslim brethren who owned oil, stock shares. Alaska was a state with some oil reserves, and its conditioning as a tool for Muslim oil objectives required more work. The captives would all be given advanced Stockholm syndrome with a host of nubial delights aboard the cruise ship, with a special education plan devised by the criminal field executive Osama bin Fudin, who did not support homeschooling. The good ship Waterplop was making fair speed toward Hawaii for refueling and eventually Indonesia. The state legislators in their individual cabins were tormented in constant darkness with foil over windows. Bin Fudin's trained orderlies entered the cabins in large numbers and worked their conditioning training for several days in shifts, never allowing the legislators to sleep and answering no questions, overcoming resistance with continuous pressure and weight of numbers. The United States was in political and media chaos over the brazen hostage taking, and the U.S. Congress was abuzz with the talk of war with whatever nation had harbored the terrorists and allowed their training. It was found all the terrorists had entered America legally, except for some thugs that trekked over gaps through the Mexican border security into Arizona, such as it was. The Department of Defense suggested that it had several off-the-shelf immediate foreign war replies ready to go on a no-bid basis, with affordable credit for less than $1 trillion or $2 in interest apiece before cost overruns. The President said that the terrorists could not escape, their day was numbered, and soon they would hear what America had to say about it. Fortunately, several popular songs were also written, enabling a public catharsis of sentiment in support of the disappeared Alaska State Legislature. A decade later, a few of the members of the Alaska State Legislature had been released with political ransom payments, yet the political environment had changed, and in Afghanistan, a militant secularist homosexual warlord providing an environment sheltering their hostages in return for their not being beheaded said he was being pressured by the Dinkelstein administration into giving up the sanctuary in the high mountains unto the gay mountain troop surge of the U.S. military in its war against the Taliban. A troop surge had embedded another 40,000 elite 2nd Butch Division mountain troops in the southern highlands to fight the Sons of the Taliban movement, a troop surge that had and was ready for action. This time, the DoD assured Americans that the new improved troops with stem cell internal reconstruction of injured body parts that were effectively immortals would bring Taliban and Sons of Taliban resistance fighters to their knees. Lady Gaga was making her third USO tour to Afghanistan as a U.S. Senator from Vermont. She promised her constituency to discover how to bring the lost Alaska State Legislature into her entourage after the next election. Thrilling. It was simply a thrilling experience to be here with my fans in Afghanistan, she is supposed to have said at Kandahar's Flughafen after the Sunday night performance. That's Sunday for those of you who are not from Sweden. Old Bin Fudin's terrorist organization had invested years before in the Mexican drug market exchange and was himself wealthy from the mutual fund profits and kickback percentages from local politicians. He finally sold the Alaska State Legislators to an international mortgage corporation for shares in a security and arms manufacturing concern in Texas with branches in China and private contractors working for $500,000 apiece a year. Compensation from various governments. Yes, his water plot was made into a hospital ship at Lahore and served well for several years before being taken to an Indian beach for savage slaughter like a beach whale for blubber in hard times.